So you've now seen our first two keynote addresses about innovation and transformation in education from Axel and Fabio. We'd now like to turn to another slightly different format. This one is the podium discussions. I'll introduce each of our podium presenters in turn. You can see we have Alex Lanz, the Managing Director of Happel Foundation in Switzerland. He'll be joining us in a second. Axel Peyriere, who's into startups and mentoring in emerging markets. He'll be joining us from Australia. And Teresa Widmer, who is Global Manager of the Swiss Entrepreneurship Program, also in Switzerland. The idea of the podium discussions is that we are going to essentially ask a question or two to the entire panel so they can offer their expertise and insight on, for example, a success story that they had. So what I'd like to know is, or what I'd like to do is introduce Teresa first. Teresa is, as we've mentioned, the Global Manager of the Swiss Entrepreneurship at SwissContact. She also leads the Swiss Entrepreneurship Program that aims to strengthen entrepreneurial ecosystems by working with local entrepreneurs and organizations in Peru, Vietnam, and the Western Balkans. We can also see Axel, the other Axel that we have in our conference, who's joined on video. His specialty is entrepreneurship development, a startup investor. In particular, he's enthusiastic about online marketplaces and frontier markets, having worked with over 200 startups in his time. And finally, we'd also like to introduce Alex Lanz, who is from the Happel Foundation, as we mentioned before. Since 2017, he's been the managing director of that foundation, which is a grant-making foundation based in Lucerne, Switzerland. Previously, he served as the COO of several asset management and private banks in Switzerland. So thank you very much to all of the podium panelists for joining us this morning. Teresa, can I please start with you? Again, as we mentioned before, perhaps a bit about your sentence or two about your background, and then if you could also share a success story of something that worked well in your past experience.
Sure. Hello, everybody. My name is Teresa. I'm very pleased to take part of this very interesting conference. Thanks a lot for inviting me. So yeah, our program, we operate since 2015, and our aim is to support or shape the local startup ecosystems bottom up. So for us, the entrepreneurs who want to grow and succeed with their companies are in the center of what we do. And since we started, I think we really managed well to put them in the lead and that we offer the support and not the other way around. So sometimes our journey is also a little bit in the unknown, and I think every entrepreneur knows this. So I think we have adapted very, very well to the core people we want to support. I'm involved in this program since the beginning. I have a business background myself, and I've also worked in the private sector before I turned into development cooperation. So I think that's actually I'm at a good edge of combining those two worlds. When I say that listening to our partners is very important, I think one success story that we had is in Peru. But actually also in other countries, it works very similar. But in Peru, when we started in 2015, we had there were two business angel networks there. Nobody talked really much about the investments they were doing. Entrepreneurs didn't know exactly, okay, for my venture, where do I have to go to get some seed funding? So we invited those business angel networks because they also started evolving like on a regular basis, also to listen to them, that they can actually share their knowledge among each other. And I think that gave them also the inspiration, like, okay, yeah, if we work more together, or at least let the others know what we do, we could be actually stronger as a whole. And then also the ecosystem becomes stronger because people know actually where to get funding from. So in 2017, the Peruvian Seed and Venture Capital Association was founded, and it was not that Swiss CP like said, oh, you should do that, and this association will help you. It was more that we continuously brought people together. They had interest. We really acted as this the facilitator of doing sort of the organizational work, that they have the space to exchange. So this angel network, this association was founded, and now there are also other angel networks from Latin America involved. They publish quarterly reports on the investments that was done, and what we see since then is that there is a continuous flow of information also publicly available, so entrepreneurs know where to go if they are in need of seed funding.
Okay, thank you very much. I'll ask the same question, of course, to Axel Peyriere. If you could please tell us something about your background very briefly, and then perhaps one project that turned out well in your experience to offer people insight about doing business in your areas of specialty.
Yeah, so basically, I'm working a lot with entrepreneurs in emerging markets, as far as Asia, Southeast Asia, Africa, etc. And so I've been doing that for the last 10 years in countries like, once again, Cambodia, Nepal, Bhutan, for example, in Asia, Ghana, Ivory Coast, etc. in Africa. And basically in Cambodia, as an example, there was no events and no network really in that country 5 years ago. And since then, we've been seeing startups growing from nothing to $5 million fundraising in those countries. So it shows that in those markets full of challenges, yes, there's a lot of opportunities as well to catch. Yeah.
Okay, excellent. Particular story that where that worked out well?
So particular story, yeah, I've seen once again Cambodia, some entrepreneurs in the media space, for example, they were starting a blog at that time. Now it's a team of 50 people, basically one of the top 5 medias in the country. And they started the same story as well from Cambodia in Myanmar, a country where the founders have never been before. And the first time they went into this country, neighboring country from Cambodia, they were as well in the top 3 medias in the market. So it's quite amazing to see these types of stories in this market. There's more and more, obviously, and it pushes other entrepreneurs as well to kind of do the same. So yes, once again, I see more challenges in these markets as opportunities. It's less competitive. There's less competition on the ID itself. The market is more the competition. So as long as you know your market and you're from that market, there's definitely a lot of potential to unlock. And it can be from South America, as Teresa was speaking, or Africa, Asia, etc.
Excellent. A very hopeful message for people listening, I'm sure. Thank you very much, Axel. And now I'd like to turn to Alexander. If you could also perhaps say something about yourself and also what the Happel Foundation does and a success story there.
Sure, it's a pleasure being here. Thank you very much for the invitation. Hello, everybody. About myself, I'm a lawyer by education and have been working in the financial industry for 17 years and then switched sides and have been with the Happel Foundation for 3 years now, which is a foundation based in Lucerne. Together with our sister foundation in Germany, we have more than 20 years of experience in development aid. But we're trying to get away from this traditional mode of operating in those developing countries, away from those projects that run for 3 or 4 years and then they end, and then hopefully life for people has become better. What we try to identify is hybrid models where we combine entrepreneurial models, business cases with social goals that we want to reach. And we have been able to identify quite a few of them. So I'm very sorry I have been limited to one today. But I have a nice example from South Africa. So after South America and Southeast Asia, which have been presented by the colleagues, we have also one from Africa. It's a project that started at the University of Cape Town. So it was a research project in the beginning, then turned with our help into a non-profit organization. And right now we're in the process of inviting investors to join. It's active in the area of small-scale fisheries. What we did is we developed an app that supports these small-scale fishers in many aspects. It's at one time a logbook where they can actually log their catch and their sales price and their costs and all of this. So it's a mini accounting for them, which helps them, shows them whether they earn money or actually lose money. There were examples where they actually lost money but didn't realize. Next step was the introduction of the so-called marketplace, where we directly link chefs from restaurants, hotels, etc. with those fishermen. So the chefs can directly buy from the fishermen, which heavily increased the income of the fishermen. In some cases, their income went up ×4. And on average, after 2 years of the project, 50% rise in income of these fishers.
Excellent. Yeah. So tapping not only into the business idea, but also to the local restaurants and value chain, essentially, to make sure that the system also benefits from particular fish and not just individual fishermen.
Correct.
Okay. I have a question here from Widmer from United Arab Emirates that I'd like to ask all of you on the panel. He's basically asking about opportunities at the moment. So I understand this is a COVID-19 moment for tech-enabled businesses. Do any of you see any particular advantages or disadvantages on tech-enabled businesses thanks to COVID, or unfortunately due to COVID? Axel, could we start with you there?
Yeah, so basically there's a lot to do with small and medium businesses in all these markets. For an example, I've been working with a startup in Thailand. They are providing digital solutions for car dealers to help them to better manage their businesses. And basically before COVID-19, they were more keen on just doing sales all the time, doing it the whole way, so quite reluctant to use online tools to manage their leads, their inventory and things like that. But thanks to COVID-19, they've been locked down for a few weeks, no more business, and then they realized that all their documents, all their leads, etc., were highly fragmented. It was everywhere. So they've been more and more trying to and starting to use this type of tool, what is called dealership management system or lead management system, to organize everything when the lockdown was easing. So it's basically what we've seen with COVID-19 in a lot of countries, especially with those medium and small businesses. It's digitalizing those businesses much faster than before. So these guys have probably won 2 or 3 years of development, of business development in the country to educate those businesses to use these systems. And it has been seen in a lot of markets in the similar way as well.
I was going to say another example of Corona pushing forward the digital agenda on people, whether they wanted to have it or not, right? Okay, excellent.
Yeah.
Teresa, do you have a similar story or advice?
Yes, it's actually very similar. I think the difference is that we focus more on accelerators and incubators in those countries, so more the organizations that help entrepreneurs. And I mean, we have seen them on one hand, of course, like many people, like being overwhelmed and struggle with the situation. At the same time, it also forced them to rethink their business very quickly. And I think this is what is a good outcome of it, to see like most of our partners were actually very quick in, okay, what now? What can we do? And many of them start to explore now, how can they actually help traditional businesses? Because in the countries where we operate, of course, our main focus is on growth-oriented startups, which are mainly have a tech focus, but there are many, many traditional businesses. So they try now also to tap into the field of helping them in their digitalization process. Also, how to be more resilient to such crisis. And I cannot say anything now about the outcome, but many of our partners are actually working in this direction. And through the network of entrepreneurs that we have set up actually a couple of support programs very rapidly for them.
Excellent. Okay, thank you very much. It would be curious to see what businesses actually derive from the crisis and how well they do in the next few years, if it's simply a temporary fix or if it's something that actually shows the way forward. Alexander, how about you?
Yeah, I have 2 examples for you. It definitely creates massive opportunities if you see them and are ready to exploit them. For example, our fisheries project in South Africa from one day to the other due to lockdown, the restaurants were closed. So the fishermen had an issue how to get rid of their fish. The team within 1 week set up a home delivery system so that private individuals could now, by using the app, order that fish directly from the fishermen. 2 weeks later, they were at 1/3 of the sales volume that they had been with the restaurants before, and after 2 months, they were at the same level. So when now restaurants will gradually open up again in South Africa, you can imagine what will happen. It's amazing for the fishermen. They will easily double their sales volume within a few weeks. So that's great. Second example is another project we have in Namibia and Zambia in Africa. It's a digital education where we have been trying to convince governments heavily in the last few years to make use of the opportunities we have there by using tablets, etc., online courses, and so on, but even offline courses, which we can offer with our system. The discussions are at a completely new level now with these governments. Due to COVID-19, they are really interested in introducing such systems.
Right, going back to Axel Schultz's original message. Sorry, Axel, you want to say something?
No, just adding on Alexander's cases as well. Another one in Bangladesh as well, home grocery delivery store. And basically, so yeah, once again, challenge creates opportunities, and thanks to or because of COVID-19, they've been basically growing the operations, like they've been saving 3 years time again of development, growing from about 3,000 orders a day to almost 20,000. And they've been really helping the local population there in Bangladesh to get their groceries delivered while everyone was on lockdown, as well as discussing with the governments, they were not that much able to do before. So this kind of situation can definitely create amazing opportunities as well. Yeah.
Wonderful. Yeah, I wanted to mention that Axel Schultz's message for the keynote today, of course, was about disruption of business models, and sometimes those disruptions come from unexpected sources, for example, pandemics. Right on. Okay, moving things forward. Okay, there's 1 or 2 comments that I think we have some questions from the audience that I think I can share here. Rhoda from Kenya asks that, well, she's a startup and would like some information about getting support. And I think we have 3 examples of excellent ways to get support. So speaking to a foundation, for example, in the region, or that can help you out, or speaking to someone like Axel here, who works directly with startups as an angel investor, that's one way you can certainly get that kind of support. And also Khalid from Pakistan is asking about entrepreneurial advice in general. What are the basics of it? I think what I'd like to do is sort of add onto that question by simply saying, okay, what kind of projects are you currently working on, and what do you think is happening now, perhaps due to COVID? Have your plans changed? What's on the horizon in the next 2 or 3 years? Alexander, could I start with you?
Well, we are currently working on a new project that should disrupt how people live in townships all around the world. It's actually a new house that has been designed in a triangular shape that should give people a home, give them the opportunity to actually grow vegetables and stuff on the sides of the house. It should collect rainwater and heat it with solar power, and all of this for a cost at industrial production of $10,000 to $12,000 US. We are right now preparing a first trial in Ethiopia, in Addis Ababa, which should take place in the second half of this year, together with the Ethiopian government, which will later provide land and loans for people in townships that actually would like to have such a house. So they should be able to repay it in 10 to 15 years. Due to the money that they can save with this house and the extra veggies that they can actually sell that they don't use for their own consumption. And the whole thing is, again, a hybrid model. So there's foundations involved, but there's also investors involved. We will make sure that the foundations, the philanthropists, will always have 51% to make sure that it doesn't go into the wrong direction at some point. Because it's actually also, it's an interesting business model as well. It's not just helping the poor, it's actually also an interesting business model.
Generating revenue,
so that's
absolutely.
Yeah, that's what we're working on right now.
Thank you very much, Alexander. Axel, I'll move to you. I also see there's a question from the audience asking about your from science project to startup. And the question is how exactly using which methodologies to support the process. Could you comment on that as well, in addition to whatever you're doing right now?
Which methodology? Yeah, so basically, so I'm working really on the early stage with early stage projects. So helping startups and entrepreneurs to move to the next level. They know their business, they know what they want to do, but they don't have the basics right most of the time. So and that's what you need to have basically to then to get more visibility, more exposure, and then to get in front of business angels, investors, etc. It's kind of the similar journey if it happens in France, in Switzerland, in Kenya, etc. Just the networks and the ecosystem is different, obviously. So basically, yes, we are helping those entrepreneurs at this level, a really early stage level, to get the pitch deck right, to get the story right, the financials right, and to see if all of that is working, and sometime as well pivoting the model to something more interesting, basically.
Mm-hmm. Wonderful. Thank you very much, Axel. And perhaps could we close the panel discussion today with Teresa, something about what you're doing right now and any advice for some of the entrepreneurs listening in the current economic situation.
Mm-hmm. Thanks. We are working on helping our partners to get through this crisis. That's our main focus at the moment. Our program runs until mid-2023, and in the countries that you have mentioned before, Douglas. However, if you are based in any other country, I'm part of SwissContact, and we are operating in more than 36 countries, so please also feel free to reach out. We do not have entrepreneurial or programs that support entrepreneurs in all the countries, but you can always drop me a message if you want to know more. And also our network is quite large, and I'm very happy to connect you. I think at the moment it's really hard to say where this journey goes. So I think as you're all entrepreneurs, it's like, okay, how can we actually grab this situation and try to also make a business around it? It sounds maybe hard, but I think keeping like eyes open where opportunities pop up, and don't be shy to ask actually for advice, because there are many people out there who are very happy to help you, also sharing what they have done before, and I think exactly this sharing first before you actually know if you get something out. I think that's very important to get through this situation together.
Okay, thank you very much. I'd like to thank our guest panelists, Axel Peyriere, Alexander Lanz, and Teresa Widmer for joining us today. Everyone out listening today, hearing, you heard the last message from Teresa. Please reach out. You've been hearing several examples of very interesting projects. Feel free to contact them separately. We are now going to move on to our next session, which is about startups. So again, Teresa, Alexander, Axel, thank you very much for your time. Hope you enjoy the rest of the conference. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Bye-bye.